Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Smackdown review. And Smackdown tonight, thought it was an okay show, in my opinion. We had some decent wrestling in the matches tonight. But wasn't a perfect or great show by any means, but you know, this is WWE. Their shows aren't perfect or great. But overall, thought it was an okay show. And before I start the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier, did a movie review of Flatliners from 1990. So definitely check out my review of that film. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed that film. Very good movie it was, but definitely check out my review of Flatliners. But tonight's SmackDown was centered around the contract signing between Roman Reigns and Adam Pearce, and you know, something at the end of the show tonight, which I'll get to explain once I talk about the end to tonight's SmackDown, which I knew was going to happen. And I know a lot of you probably knew that it was going to happen. And I called it. So I was right on it, which I will get to explaining later on when I get into the end segment. But let's jump right in to the SmackDown review. So SmackDown opened up tonight with Roman Reigns. Of course, you know, you got to open SmackDown every week with Roman Reigns. The guy is the top star on SmackDown. So Roman Reigns was backstage with Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman was going over the contract for his matchup, for Roman's match with Adam Pearce at the Royal Rumble. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that he didn't like the contract when he saw it. He ended up telling Roman that he thinks that his match with Adam Pearce should have a stipulation to it. One where Roman can be himself and teach Adam Pearce about fear and also respect. So Paul Heyman ended up offering to take the contract to Adam Pearce for an adjustment to it. Roman then handed the contract over to Paul Heyman, and Heyman ended up saying that Reigns can consider this handle. So Paul Heyman then ended up thanking Roman and ended up walking off. And that was that. And then we went into the Thunderdome, Tropicana Field. Jey Uso ended up coming out. So Jey Uso got into the ring. He ended up getting on the mic. And he ended up talking about how him and Roman run SmackDown. He ended up saying that him and Roman run SmackDown, not Adam Pearce or Kevin Owens or anyone else in the WWE universe. So Jey Uso ended up saying that his family calls the shots in the company, in WWE, and not Adam Pearce. Jey Uso ended up saying that Pearce will find out the hard way at the Royal Rumble. So Jey Uso ended up saying that if we thought they were satisfied with SmackDown, we should think again. Jey Uso ended up going on and saying that everyone should thank Roman for towels, for fresh towels, and hot food and catering and for the millions of fans tune in each week. So then Jey Uso hypes himself up as main event Uso. And he then goes on to announce that he is going to be participating in the Royal Rumble matchup. So Jey Uso ended up saying that he's going to win the Royal Rumble. And then he's going to go to Monday Night Raw and win the WWE Championship from Drew McIntyre or Goldberg at WrestleMania 37. Because it's his bloodline who owns all of WWE. So Jey Uso then went on to say that he has business with Shinsuke Nakamura. He ended up going on about how everyone was bragging in the Gauntlet match last week, bragging on Nakamura's performance in the Gauntlet match last week. And Jey Uso ended up saying that that Nakamura's performance in that Gauntlet match was nothing special. So Jey Uso ended up talking trash about Nakamura, and then Nakamura ended up coming out. Nakamura ended up getting his old theme back, which, I was happy to hear. I was happy to hear Nakamura's old theme again. So Nakamura is officially a babyface now. So Nakamura ended up coming out, and he ended up saying that Jey Uso is Roman's little puppet. So Jey Uso then ended up going to charge at Nakamura, but Nakamura ended up dropping him with a kick to the head. So Nakamura ended up celebrating in the ring, and SmackDown went to commercial. So that was that. But it was a decent segment here with Jey Uso. Jey Uso ended up calling himself, of course, main event Uso, and also saying that he is going to be in the Royal Rumble. And then we had the match, Jey Uso versus Shinsuke Nakamura, as SmackDown came back from commercial. The bell ended up ringing. Both Nakamura and Uso ended up brawling. Nakamura ended up dropping Jey Uso with a clothesline. Nakamura ended up pinning Jey Uso. Jey Uso ended up kicking out at 2. Jey Uso got some offense on Nakamura, slammed Nakamura in the middle of the ring. So they were trading right hands, Uso and Nakamura. Jey Uso ended up getting knocked into the corner, ended up fighting out of it. We had Cesaro end up coming out later on. So Nakamura ended up kicking Jey Uso to the floor and also into the announce table. Nakamura then ended up launching Jey Uso into the ring post. Jey Uso went face first into the ring post. So Cesaro was shown walking around ringside, and then SmackDown went to commercial. Then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Jey Uso and Nakamura. They ended up fighting on the apron. Cesaro was now on commentary during the match. So Jey Uso ended up blocking a shot from Nakamura and then ended up knocking him out to the floor. Jey Uso then ended up slamming Nakamura into the ring apron. And at the end of the match, we had Shinsuke Nakamura end up winning. And we had Nakamura end up delivering the Kinshasa to Jey Uso. So Shinsuke Nakamura ended up winning the match. Because there was a point where Jey Uso ended up rolling Nakamura up for the pin, and the referee, Charles Robinson, end up catching Jey Uso using the tights. So Jey Uso and Charles Robinson were, of course, arguing. And so that's when Nakamura took control and delivered the Kinshasa to Jey Uso. So Nakamura ended up winning. But overall, it was a decent match here between Nakamura and Jey Uso. And then we had Sonya Deville backstage. Sonya Deville was talking to Adam Pearce about strategy, but Paul Heyman ended up walking in. Paul Heyman was shown shaking hands with Sonya Deville, and he ended up handing Adam Pearce the contract for his match with Roman at the Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Adam Pearce has the opportunity of a lifetime in his hands. So Paul Heyman ends up revealing that the new contract will make the match a no disqualification match. So Paul Heyman ended up telling Sonya Deville how good her perfume is working, and he was creeping on Sonya Deville, and he was creeping Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce. Pearce was annoyed by Paul Heyman and the pitch for the match. So Pearce ended up signing the contract and saying this will mean that he gets injured, which is what Paul Heyman and Roman want to see done to Adam Pearce. So Adam Pearce ends up handing the contract back to Paul Heyman, and then SmackDown went to commercial. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we saw Jey Uso. He was arguing with Charles Robinson backstage, and Jey Uso ended up telling Charles Robinson that he is about to lose his job if he doesn't do it right. So Jey Uso still mad about the outcome of the match with Nakamura. So then we went to Kayla Braxton backstage. Kayla Braxton was backstage. She was interviewing the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. And they both end up dismissing the idea that they might be scared of Dolph and Robert Roode. And they go on about how they're going to run it back. And they end up saying that when the rematch happens, bodies will drop. So Ford ended up saying that they're up and they want the smoke. So it looks like the Street Profits are going to get their rematch against Dolph and Robert Roode with the titles being on the lines. They're going to get that rematch very soon. And then we had Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and Apollo Crews backstage. Paul Heyman ended up walking in with the contract for the match at the Rumble with Pearce and Reigns. And Reigns ended up telling Apollo Crews to stay so he can watch and learn from this. Reigns ended up asking Paul Heyman if the contract was signed. Reigns ended up saying that he's not going to sign the contract and that he doesn't want a no disqualification match. He ends up saying that he wants a last man standing match. Paul Heyman ended up saying that he doesn't believe Pearce will agree to that stipulation. So Reigns ended up saying that he will because Apollo Crews is going to make him. Reigns ended up saying that he wants Pearce to sign the contract in the ring later on. So Reigns ended up handing the contract back to Paul Heyman, and he ended up telling him to consider it signed. So Reigns ended up going back to chat with Apollo Crews, and that was that. And then we had Natalya versus Liv Morgan, which this was terrible. Did not care for this match. We had Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, and Billie Kay come out. Of course, Billie Kay is absolutely terrible as of now. But Billie Kay ended up stepping in front of the Riot Squad on the stage. She was supporting a new punk look. So we had Billie Kay on commentary here, which was god-awful. So Natalya ended up locking up with Liv Morgan. They ended up taking it to the ropes. Liv Morgan ended up nailing a takedown on Natalya. Liv Morgan delivered a running back elbow in the corner to Natalya. Natalya ended up getting the upper hand, but Morgan ended up countering it and launched Natalya to the mat. We had back and forth between Natalya and Liv Morgan. And there was a point where Billie Kay was off of commentary. She ended up going over. She ended up yelling at Ruby Riott for not helping Liv Morgan. So we had Billie Kay still was yelling. She goes over and yells at the referee. She ended up getting in front of Tamina, who was also out there. Tamina ended up asking Billie Kay, "What is wrong with you?" So Billie Kay ended up backing away. She stumbles into the ring and then back out of the ring, and it led to Natalya taking control of the match, rolling Liv Morgan up. So there you go. Natalya ended up winning the match, thanks to Billie Kay getting in the ring and getting back out, causing a distraction, which led to Natalya winning. So then, post-match, we saw Billie Kay. She ended up realizing that the Riot Squad wasn't happy with her. So Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott were annoyed at Billie Kay. And that was that. But match was terrible, in my opinion. Billie Kay, just absolutely awful. She's absolutely awful. And then we went to Rey Mysterio versus Corbin, which Rey Mysterio ended up coming out along with his son Dominic. So Corbin ended up coming out. He came out by himself. We had no Blake or Cutler out there. So I'm like, where are they? Where's Cutler and Blake? So they weren't shown tonight. So the match was just a very meh match, in my opinion. As soon as the match started, Rey ended up taking out Corbin. He ended up driving Corbin into the corner, starting unloading on him. Corbin came right back and delivered a clothesline to Rey Mysterio from behind. Corbin was taunting Dominic, who was on commentary. Corbin ended up dropping Mysterio with a right hand. Corbin then delivered a big back suplex, which he ended up covering Rey Mysterio for a 2 count because Rey ended up kicking out. Rey Mysterio ended up countering a back suplex and ended up dropping Corbin with the Bulldog. And we had Corbin approached Dominic later on. Dominic ended up going to stand up, and Corbin ended up shoving Dominic back down in his chair on commentary there. So we had Corbin end up continuing to taunt Dominic, and Corey Graves was just pressuring him on commentary. I'm like, Graves was like, "Oh, why won't you, help your father there? Why won't you defend your father?" And Dominic was like, this is his fight here. He doesn't want to cause a disqualification. So, but later on, Dominic ended up stepping to Corbin at ringside. Corbin ended up rolling Rey back into the match and turned around with a right hand to Dominic's face. And Rey ended up sliding and kicking Corbin from the ring. And Rey ended up going to capitalize on Corbin. Dominic ended up storming the ring. And Rey immediately stopped Dominic and got him to leave the ring. Corbin ended up taking advantage of the distraction, which nailed Rey with the end of days. So there you go. Corbin ended up winning the match. So post-match, we saw Dominic down at ringside. He was trying to recover. He then joined his father in the ring, and that was that. But overall, very meh match. So then we saw Adam Pearce. He was walking backstage. Paul Heyman ended up approaching him with the contract. Pearce ended up asking if Roman signed the contract. Paul Heyman ended up telling Adam Pearce that there was a little wrinkle, but no, Roman did not sign the contract. Paul Heyman ended up saying that Roman agreed with Pearce's concerns with a no disqualification match. So Heyman went on and he told Adam Pearce that there is another pitch for the match. And Adam Pearce didn't want to hear it. He ended up asking Paul Heyman where he's going with this. Paul Heyman ended up mentioning the last man standing stipulation. And Paul Heyman was trying to sell Adam Pearce on the match. Pearce ended up asking who that will benefit. And Paul Heyman ended up saying that he's not in the business of giving spoilers. So Adam Pearce was shown annoyed once again, and he was about to sign the contract. Paul Heyman ended up telling him to take his time, because he will be able to talk it over with Roman in the ring. So Paul Heyman ended up walking off, and now he's going to consider this handled. So that was that. So then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Dominic was with his father, Rey Mysterio. Dominic ended up saying that his dad has been fighting giants his entire career, and now he's backing down. Rey ended up saying that he's not backing down, and that he's just being smart about battling Corbin, and Dominic should do the same. Rey went on to say about how impressive Corbin has been. And Dominic ended up saying that he doesn't care what he's done. And Rey ended up saying that if Dominic wants to take care of Corbin, he knows just the guy to talk to. So that was that. And so then we had a new talk show segment called Ding Dong Hello, which of course was hosted by Bayley. And in the ring, we saw a front door prop that was set up in the middle of the ring. She had a chair and an end table in there and a stool for her guest. And she also had a plaque that said, you know, the days of how she was a SmackDown Women's Champion. So Bayley ended up stepping through the front door prop that was set up in the middle of the ring, and Bayley was wearing glasses and this chain, which I'm like, she looked like she came from the 60s. Looks like she just visited the 60s with the glasses that she was wearing, and all she needed was just a peace chain, you know, and her going peace, you know, and acting like a hippie. That's all she needed. That's all she needed with the glasses that she was wearing in the segment here. That's what she reminded me of. So Bayley ended up stepping through the front door, and Bayley ended up welcoming us to the Ding Dong Hello. And she bragged about how her show already has more views than WandaVision on Disney+, which of course WandaVision is the new Marvel series on Disney+, which I am going to check out. Definitely going to give it a watch, because I've been looking forward to it. So Bayley ended up going on, and she ended up introducing her guest, who was Bianca Belair. Bianca came out, and Bayley ended up telling her to go to the other side of the door because she wanted Bianca to ring the bell and come through the door. So Bianca does that. Bianca then rings the bell, which is a loud bell sound effect, doorbell sound effect. So Bianca ends up coming in, and she ends up taking a seat in Bayley's chair. Bayley ends up pointing out to Bianca that that's her chair, and that Bianca won't give it up. She was complimenting her on how comfortable the chair is. So Bayley ended up plugging Bianca's WWE Chronicle documentary, which is going to be featured on the WWE Network, which I will give a watch also when it comes on. So she ended up saying, Bayley ended up saying that she has a sneak peek, and she yells for the footage to be rolled. And instead, we see a clip of Bayley pinning Bianca, which was shown last month on SmackDown. So Bayley ended up apologizing and says it's time to get to the hard-hitting questions. Bayley ended up asking about the EST nickname of Bianca Belair. Bianca ends up explaining, and Bayley ends up saying that it sounds like the nickname is based on everything Bianca did before she got to WWE. Bianca ended up saying that she can't believe Bayley is getting upset over her confidence and her nickname. Bayley ended up saying that based on what Bianca is saying, Bayley should be called the best because she recently pinned Bianca. So Bianca wasn't happy. She ended up saying that Bayley can take her show, go put on her dusty gear, and they can have a rematch right now. So Bayley then ends up proposing an obstacle course competition for next week. The Ultimate Athlete Obstacle Course. So Bianca ends up laughing, and she ends up accepting the challenge. Bianca ends up saying to Bayley that Bayley has some EST in herself also, and that there is no way she can beat her. So Bianca ended up saying, now ding dong that. So that was how the segment ended, but there you go, we're having the Ultimate Athlete Obstacle Course competition next week on SmackDown. So there's your bathroom break for SmackDown next week. So there you go. But the segment was just very, meh in my opinion, but Bayley is still awesome. I'm a huge Bayley fan. And then we had Chad Gable, Daniel Bryan, and Otis getting ready for the Royal Rumble. They were doing stretches like they were doing the Macarena. So Daniel Bryan was shown training backstage with Gable and Otis. Kayla Braxton walked up to them, and Daniel Bryan was telling Kayla Braxton about how the alpha training way boosts his confidence, and he's glad to prepare for the Rumble with Gable and Otis. Kayla Braxton ended up asking if his confidence was hurt last week with the gauntlet match and Shinsuke Nakamura. So Daniel Bryan ended up telling Kayla Braxton that, he has nothing bad to say about Nakamura. He had mentioned how him and Nakamura shook hands after the match last week. And so then Cesaro ended up interrupting. Cesaro ended up saying that Daniel Bryan doesn't speak for his partner, and that Nakamura only shook Daniel Bryan's hand out of pity last week. So Cesaro ended up taking a shot at the training methods of Otis, Chad Gable, and Daniel Bryan. Ended up saying, your training methods, you're like doing the Macarena. So Daniel Bryan ended up offering to show Cesaro how good their training methods work. Yeah, the training methods are like them doing the Macarena. That's what it looks like. Them flexing and doing the Macarena. Going, huh. So then we had Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro, which this was a decent match here. We had a match start off and they locked up. Cesaro ended up dropping Daniel Bryan with a shoulder. Went for the cover. Daniel Bryan ended up kicking out at 1. Cesaro locked in the headlock on Daniel Bryan. They both end up running the ropes. Daniel Bryan ended up nailing an arm drag and starts working on Cesaro's arm. Cesaro tried to fight out of the lock on the arm from Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan ended up backing Cesaro into the corner. So Cesaro ended up nailing a back elbow to Daniel Bryan's jaw, and Cesaro then delivered the running uppercut into the corner on Daniel Bryan. At the end of the match, we had Cesaro winning where he catched Daniel Bryan and delivered a big uppercut. And then he went for the neutralizer to Daniel Bryan. And there you go. Cesaro ended up winning the match. But overall, decent match. It was an enjoyable match here between Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. So then we went to Kayla Braxton backstage. Kayla Braxton was with Carmella and Reginald. Carmella ended up saying that she told the truth about Sasha last week. She ended up saying that when it comes to natural talent, Sasha can't touch her. Carmella went on to say that she's here again, but she doesn't see Sasha anywhere. She ended up saying that Sasha is hiding because she knows, which Sasha ended up suddenly attacking, but Reginald ended up getting in the way. Sasha ended up telling Reginald to tell Carmella that she can have her title shot, as long as Sasha can have Reginald in a match first. So Sasha ended up walking off, and she ended up laughing, and we had Reginald looking worried as he turned to Carmella, and Carmella was all smiles at that. So it looks like we're going to be seeing Sasha versus Reginald. And then we saw Apollo Crews versus Sami Zayn, which this was a pretty quick match here. Sami Zayn, of course, came out along with the guys. He's filming this whole documentary. So we saw a clip from Talking Smack last week where Paul Heyman was given a pep talk to Apollo Crews after his loss to Big E, which I thought this whole clip with Paul Heyman and Apollo Crews, which I did see the full clip online, I thought it was pretty good on how Paul Heyman was giving this pep talk to Apollo Crews. I mean, go watch the clip. It's a really good clip with Paul Heyman there, just speaking facts to Apollo Crews. So definitely go check out that clip. It's on, of course, WWE's social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Check out the clip. So we had the match start, and Apollo Crews ended up nailing a drop kick to Sami Zayn. Sami ended up kicking Apollo Crews, but he ended up running into an overhead throw from Apollo Crews. Sami then got up, ends up clotheslining Apollo Crews over the top rope. And Big E was on commentary here. Big E was at ringside. He had a big couch for him. He had a small little fridge that was next to the couch. And Big E was wearing a Ghostbusters ugly sweater, which I thought looked cool. So Sami Zayn ended up going out and he ended up taunting Big E. He ended up calling him brother. Big E ended up saying that Sami can't call him brother. So then Sami ended up working on Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews ended up fighting back, ended up slamming Sami's face into the announce table. Apollo Crews then delivered a standing moonsault from the announce table. And at the end of the match, you had Sami Zayn end up rolling up Apollo Crews. He ended up grabbing Apollo Crews' tights, which Jessica Carr ended up seeing. So we had Sami end up telling his film crew to stop filming. So he ended up charges into the corner. Apollo Crews ended up rolling him up. And Apollo Crews was using the tights. And the referee, of course, didn't see it. So Apollo Crews ended up winning the match. So that was that. But overall, it was a quick match. Post-match, we had Sami Zayn screaming at Jessica Carr about the tights. Big E was laughing. Apollo Crews then picked up the Intercontinental Championship off of Big E's couch. He was staring at the Intercontinental Championship. Big E ended up getting up. He ended up telling Apollo Crews to keep playing and see what happens. Apollo Crews then ended up tossing the title back to Big E, and that was that. So then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, we had stuff that we're going to see on SmackDown next week. It was announced that we're going to be seeing Apollo Crews versus Big E for the Intercontinental Championship. So we're going to be seeing that next week on SmackDown. And of course, the Ultimate Athlete Obstacle Course Challenge between Bayley and Bianca Belair, which I said earlier, that's going to be your bathroom break for next week. So those are the two things that they mentioned for SmackDown for next Friday. So then we went to the ring for the contract signing between Adam Pearce and Roman Reigns. Roman, Paul Heyman, and Jey Uso were in the ring. Of course, the ring was set up for the contract signing. We had Reigns come out first, and then Adam Pearce came walking out. Adam Pearce had the contract in his hand. And Michael Cole ended up reminding us that it's going to be Adam Pearce versus Roman at the Royal Rumble in a last man standing match for the Universal Championship. So Pearce ended up getting into the ring. Roman ended up telling Pearce to take a seat. So Adam Pearce was the only one who was sitting. Paul Heyman ended up offering to put Roman's seat at the head of the table. Because, of course, Roman is the head of the table. He's the tribal chief. But Reigns ended up wanting to stand. So Paul Heyman starts talking about the contract to Adam Pearce. Jey Uso ended up grabbing Adam Pearce, and he ended up yelling at Adam Pearce to get his ass up because he's taking too long. So Pearce ended up sitting back down on the other side of the table because Roman ended up taking his seat at the head of the table. So Adam Pearce and Roman both signed the contract, and Pearce ended up closing the contract, and he ended up saying that he's waited all night for Roman to do that. Pearce then ended up standing up. He ended up getting out of the ring with the contract, and Roman was looking confused. Pearce was shown marching up the ramp, and he starts limping. So Jey Uso, Paul Heyman, and Roman were confused. Pearce ended up stopping on stage, and he ended up saying that his knee has been hurting all day long, and that it must be one of those injuries that creep up on you at the worst possible time. He ended up saying, don't worry, standard contracts are the same thing. So Adam Pearce, we couldn't hear what he was saying that good because his mic was having some technical difficulties. Pearce then says he was able to find a suitable replacement for his match with Roman at the Royal Rumble. And he had a suitable replacement in his mind. So Kevin Owens ended up coming out. And the look on Roman's face was, oh God. He thought he got rid of Kevin Owens after throwing him off the Thunderdome LED board through the table. So Roman was not happy about that. So Kevin Owens came out. He signed the contract as Adam Pearce ended up holding it up for him. Kevin Owens ended up staring down at the ring. He was smiling at Roman. And that was how SmackDown went off the air tonight. But I knew Kevin Owens was, going to face Roman, that he was going to come back. I called it last week. I said Adam Pearce is going to give up his spot to face Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble, and it's going to go to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is going to return, and he's going to face Roman at the Royal Rumble. I knew it. You guys probably knew it. So I called it. I was right. But that was SmackDown tonight. Overall, okay show. But anyways, that's it for the SmackDown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and also check out my movie review of Flatliners, which I uploaded earlier today. So if you guys haven't checked out my review of that, definitely do. So until the next video, I'll see you all later.